Chosen one, this is not the hour to collapse under the weight of what you have been carrying. This is not the moment to let grief name you, or let weariness decide your future. You have come too far through too much, with too many unseen battles behind you, to mistake this final stretch for the end of your story. What you are feeling right now is real. The pressure is real. The fatigue is real. The temptation to step back, to go silent, to quit in your heart before anything changes on the outside, that is real too. But so is the hand of God on your life. So is the calling that has followed you through fire. So is the assignment that would not leave you alone, even in the seasons when you begged for an ordinary life and a quieter path. You were never built for a small ending. You were marked for a greater finish. There are moments in life when the battle around you is loud, and there are moments when the loudest battle is the one inside you. This is one of those moments. You wake up carrying thoughts you did not invite. You move through the day with a heaviness you cannot always explain. You smile for people who do not know how hard you have had to fight just to remain soft, just to remain faithful, just to remain standing. You have been stretched between promise and pain, between what God showed you and what your present reality seems to deny. That tension has tested your mind, your patience, your trust, and your strength. Yet here you are, not because it has been easy, and not because you have never wanted to run, but because something deeper than fear keeps calling your spirit forward. You need to hear this clearly. The fact that the battle has intensified does not mean you are abandoned. It means the hour is serious. The fact that the enemy presses harder does not mean you are losing. It often means your endurance is threatening something that was built on your surrender. Darkness does not waste its strength fighting what already belongs to it. The pressure increases when your breakthrough draws near, when your obedience begins to expose old chains, when your persistence starts to crack open doors that were locked for generations. What you are walking through is not random. This is not meaningless resistance. This is the friction that rises when heaven has written victory over a life the enemy hoped would remain buried in discouragement. Beloved, you have survived days that should have broken you. You have carried pain that other people never saw. You have kept moving while parts of your heart were still healing in silence. You have prayed while tired. You have believed while confused. You have shown up while hurting, and because you have done that, there is a sacred strength being formed in you that could not have been built any other way. You are not becoming weaker in this battle. You are becoming clearer. The false things are falling away. The borrowed identities are losing their grip. The need for constant human approval is being stripped off. The fear of being misunderstood is losing power. What remains is the part of you that knows God called you before people recognized you, and God will sustain you whether people understand you or not. This is why you must not interpret your exhaustion as failure. Sometimes exhaustion is the evidence that you have been fighting on ground that matters. Sometimes trembling is what courage looks like when it has been awake all night. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is keep taking the next step when no applause follows you and no visible sign confirms you. Faith is not always loud. Sometimes faith breathes slowly. Sometimes faith cries and still refuses to let go. Sometimes faith says, "I do not understand this season, but I will not bow to despair." That kind of faith shakes the unseen realm. That kind of faith confuses every force that expected you to quit when the road became lonely. So listen carefully. Do not make permanent decisions in a temporary storm. Do not hand your future to a passing wave of hopelessness. Do not let one heavy chapter convince you that the whole book ends in defeat. The enemy would love for you to mistake delay for denial, pressure for punishment, and silence for abandonment. But God is not absent in your silence. God is not threatened by your tears. God is not standing far away, waiting for you to prove your worth. He is the one holding you together in ways you do not even realize. He is the reason your mind did not fully shatter. He is the reason your heart still reaches for light. He is the reason you are reading this now, at the exact moment when giving up seemed easier than trying one more time. This is divine interruption. This is the warning before the wrong turn. This is mercy stepping into your weariness and saying, "Do not do it." Do not throw away what God has been building in you just because the final battle feels longer than you expected. Do not surrender your crown for a moment of relief that will not heal what only obedience can heal. There are seasons when rest is holy, and there are seasons when retreat becomes agreement with fear. You must know the difference right now. You are not being called to disappear. You are being called to endure. You are being called to remain. You are being called to hold your place until the thing sent to break you becomes the thing that proves who you really are. And yes, there is something in you that already knows this. Beneath the fatigue, beneath the frustration, beneath the questions, there is still a fire. It may not look dramatic right now. It may not feel loud, but it is there. It is the reason you keep searching for truth. It is the reason your spirit refuses to settle in darkness. It is the reason every attack against your peace has not fully succeeded. That fire is not self-made. It is heaven-lit. It is the mark of a person who has been chosen for more than comfort. Chosen for more than survival. Chosen to stand in an hour when lesser strength would fold. So stand. Stand with tears if you must, but stand. Stand tired if you must, but stand. Stand without full answers if you must, but stand. And if this message finds you in the middle of your hardest moment, type 777 as your sign that you will not give up in the final battle. Let hell hear your refusal. Let your own soul hear your decision. Let this moment become the line you do not cross backward, because this is not where your story dies. This is where your endurance is revealed. This is where your spirit learns that what felt like an ending was really the narrowing path before release. You are closer than your pain can measure, closer than your fear can admit, closer than the voices of defeat want you to know. Hold on. Breathe again. Lift your head again. The battle may be fierce, but you are not chosen to fall at the edge of fulfillment. You are chosen to finish. You begin to notice that the deepest battles do not always arrive with noise. Sometimes they come with silence, with long nights, with the kind of pressure that sits on your chest before the sun rises and follows you long after the day is done. This is how the breaking point often announces itself. Not with one dramatic collapse, but with a slow wearing down of the soul. You keep going, yet something in you feels stretched thin. You keep praying, yet the answers seem delayed. You keep showing kindness, yet your own heart aches for the comfort you so freely give away. That is when you must understand what season you are truly in. You are not simply under pressure. You are near the place where endurance reveals what was planted in you all along. There is a reason this season feels unusually heavy. It is because the trial has reached the layer beneath appearances. Surface faith is easy to display when life is stable. Public strength is easy to perform when blessings are visible. But when your spirit is tested in hidden places, when loss touches what matters most, when you can no longer rely on momentum or applause or quick reassurance, then what remains is real. This is where chosen ones are separated from imitation, This is where your faith stops being language and becomes breath. This is where you discover whether your hope depends on outcomes or whether it has roots deep enough to hold even when the winds do not stop. That is why the story of Job belongs here so naturally, almost as if his footsteps have been walking beside yours this whole time. Job did not wake up expecting the ground beneath his life to split open. He was a man of integrity, a man who honored God, a man whose life carried evidence of blessing. Yet in a span of suffering that would have shattered many souls, he lost what seemed impossible to lose. His world changed with a speed that mocked human understanding. What had once looked secure became fragile. What had once seemed settled became uncertain. And what had once been the visible proof of favor was stripped away until he sat in grief, ash, pain, and confusion. The breaking point was not a concept to Job. It was a place he had to inhabit while still deciding whether he would remain himself before God. That is what makes his story more than history. It becomes a mirror, because you also know what it means to stand in a reality you never would have chosen. You know what it is to ask how so much could shift so quickly. You know what it is to carry sorrow that words cannot fully explain. And perhaps what has hurt you most is not only the pain itself, but the loneliness that comes when other people see your struggle and assume they understand it. They may offer opinions. They may tell you what you should have done, how quickly you should recover, how neatly your faith should behave under strain. Job heard those voices too. He sat among people who thought they could explain his suffering, as though mystery could be reduced to accusation. But the signs that you are near the breaking point are not signs that God has left. They are often signs that you have come to the edge of what human strength can manage. And that is exactly where a deeper dependence begins to form. The chosen one does not discover true resilience in easy days. You discover it when comfort is gone and truth is all you have left to hold. Job lived in that severe place. His body hurt. His heart hurt. His mind wrestled with questions. He lamented honestly. He grieved openly. He did not pretend the loss was small, and he did not wrap his pain in polished religious language. Yet even there, he did not sever himself from God. That matters. It matters because many people think faith means never shaking. But sometimes faith is what remains while you are shaking. You may feel tired enough to wonder whether you are failing. You may see your tears and misread them as weakness. You may feel your mind circling the same questions and think your struggle disqualifies you from being strong. But strength is not the absence of anguish. Strength is what keeps reaching toward God while anguish is still speaking. Job shows you that. He shows you that the breaking point can become the meeting place where honesty and endurance stand together. He shows you that pain does not cancel calling. He shows you that confusion does not erase covenant. He shows you that a wounded person can still be held by divine purpose. There is one line from Job that rises here like a torch in a dark place. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Job chapter 13, verse 15. That is not the voice of a man who understands everything. It is the voice of a man who has reached the edge of himself and still refuses to let go of God. That is the kind of faith being formed in you now. Not shallow faith, not convenient faith. Faith that survives contact with suffering. Faith that has looked into the abyss and still says, I will not surrender my trust. So when the weight feels unbearable, remember what this pressure may really mean. It may mean you are being brought into a depth you could not have entered any other way. It may mean your soul is learning to stand without the supports you once depended on. It may mean heaven is shaping in you the kind of endurance that cannot be borrowed, imitated, or cheaply produced. Job did not become a witness through comfort. He became one through tested faith. And now, as your own spirit groans under the strain, his story threads quietly into yours. Not to replace your pain, but to remind you that breaking is not the same as ending. You are closer than you think to the moment when this season will reveal what it has been building in you. For now, do not be afraid of the tears, the silence, or the ache. These may be the very signs that the old version of your strength is giving way to something holier, steadier, and far more enduring. You start to realize that the resistance is not random. It is not scattered, careless, or without aim. The darkness does not rise against you with such intensity because you are weak. It rises because something about your life has entered a dangerous place for everything that hoped you would remain bound, confused, and delayed. The battle becomes fiercer when your next step carries weight. The pressure grows sharper when the enemy senses that what once held you is beginning to lose its grip. That is why this season feels so personal. The attacks seem targeted because they are. Your peace is being tested. Your focus is being tested. Your identity is being tested. Not because heaven has forgotten you, but because your emergence is closer than it appears. This is where the story of Job continues to walk beside you. His suffering was never casual. It was not meaningless chaos drifting through an ordinary life. There was a spiritual seriousness around his trial that Job himself could not fully see at first. What happened to him on earth had an unseen dimension behind it. He felt the pain before he understood the context. He experienced the losses before he knew the full scale of the spiritual conflict surrounding his name. And that is often how it feels for you. You are living inside a battle whose full meaning is larger than your present vision. You can feel the blows, but you cannot yet see everything those blows are trying to prevent. Darkness fights harder when your faith is about to mature into something unshakable. It fights harder when your voice is about to carry authority. It fights harder when your obedience is about to break patterns that have traveled through bloodlines, habits, and old wounds for years. There are moments when the enemy is content to leave people sleeping in compromise because sleeping people do not threaten anything. But a chosen one who is waking up, who is healing, who is refusing the old lies, who is learning how to stand in truth with holy clarity, that person becomes a problem for the kingdom of darkness. That is why the battle around you is not easing gently. Your rise is no longer theoretical. It is beginning to take form. Job knew something of this without having all the language for it. He sat in pain while his world misunderstood him. His body became the site of suffering, his mind the place of wrestling, his heart the chamber of grief. Yet beneath all of it was a contest over whether he would remain faithful when stripped of visible reward. That is why his suffering intensified beyond what seemed reasonable. The enemy was not merely attacking his comfort. The enemy was reaching for his reverence, his trust, his inner posture before God. And what darkness wanted from him is what darkness wants from you. Not just your tears, not just your energy. It wants your agreement with despair. It wants you to conclude that your pain means there is no purpose. It wants you to stop before the breakthrough turns visible. So pay attention to the pattern. The hardest warfare often appears right before a shift. The strongest resistance often comes when something old is dying and something new is about to stand up inside you. You may feel more tired than ever, yet also more aware, more pressed, yet also more awake, more wounded, yet also less willing to betray what God has shown you. That contradiction is not proof of collapse. It is evidence of transformation. You are not the same person who first entered this season. The fire has touched you. The waiting has refined you. The loneliness has taught you how to hear what noise once drowned out. Even now, in the struggle, you are becoming harder to deceive. That is why you must guard your interpretation of this moment. Do not call yourself cursed when you are actually being refined. Do not call yourself defeated when you are actually being opposed because you are advancing. Do not call your life abandoned when heaven is allowing a deeper work to take root in you. Job could have mistaken intensity for rejection. He could have decided that the scale of the pain proved the absence of God. But his story keeps revealing something stronger. Intensity does not always mean destruction. Sometimes it means a larger victory is being contested. And because this message is reaching you in such a serious hour, take a quiet moment to honor what God is doing here. If these words are strengthening your spirit, let your agreement be seen in a simple way. Like this message. Share it with someone whose faith is hanging by a thread, and subscribe so you can keep walking through these moments with steady encouragement. If this channel has been feeding your soul and you want to help carry this work further, there is also a way to donate in the description. Let it be an act of support, not pressure. Let it come from a willing heart. Now return to the center of this truth. The enemy increases pressure when your next chapter threatens old darkness. Job was not being crushed because he was forgotten. He was being tested in a way that would one day reveal the endurance of a man who feared God beyond circumstances. In the same way, your struggle is not empty. Your tears are not wasted. Your weariness is not the final word over your life. There is something being preserved in you even while the battle rages. There is something being proven through you even while the answers delay. So when darkness fights harder now, do not panic. Recognize the sign. Something is moving. Something is nearing completion. Something that could not be produced through comfort alone is being forged in you through this fire. Job remained in the tension before he ever saw restoration. And you not, too, are learning to stand before the story turns. That is the kind of strength hell fears most. Not loud strength that disappears under pressure, but quiet, enduring, God-anchored strength that refuses to bow. Stay there. Hold your ground. The intensity is not the end of you. It is the evidence that your breakthrough is close enough to threaten the darkness. There comes a moment in a battle like this when the loudest danger is not the wound itself, but the voice that tries to interpret the wound for you. That voice does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sounds almost reasonable. Sometimes it comes dressed as relief. It tells you that quitting would be easier, that shutting down would hurt less, that walking away from what God placed in you would finally bring peace. This is why this part of the journey is so serious. It is not only about pain, it is about persuasion. It is about the suggestion that surrender to despair is somehow wisdom. It is about the lie that your exhaustion has the right to make your choices for you. This is where Job's story reaches into your spirit with such force. Job did not only suffer loss, he also had to survive the voices around his suffering. He had to endure interpretations, opinions, and pressures that tried to push him toward a conclusion his soul could not accept. His pain made him vulnerable, but his vulnerability did not erase the sacred line he would not cross. He grieved. He questioned. He sat in agony. Yet underneath the ache, there was still a refusal. There was still a place in him that would not fully give itself over to rebellion against God. That matters more than many people realize, because in seasons like this, the decisive battle is often won or lost in that hidden place of inward consent. You know this place. You know what it is to be worn down enough that almost any escape starts to look attractive. You know what it is to wonder whether numbness would be easier than hope. You know what it is to stare into a difficult season and feel the temptation to stop expecting anything good. But this is exactly where heaven interrupts. This is exactly where mercy steps into the path before the wrong choice becomes a permanent scar. The warning is simple because truth does not need decoration. Do not do it. Do not let the darkness use a temporary storm to talk you into a permanent retreat. Do not let one chapter of pain become the author of your identity. What makes the warning holy is that it comes before disaster, not only after it. God does not merely restore after collapse. He also warns before collapse. He speaks into the mind before the heart hardens. He reaches for the soul before despair becomes agreement. And often that warning arrives in a quiet but unmistakable way. Something in you pauses. Something in you knows. Something in you senses that the decision before you carries more weight than your emotions can measure in the moment. That pause is not weakness. That pause is grace. That pause is where chosen ones remember that every impulse must be tested before it is obeyed. Job stood in that kind of sacred tension. He could have turned bitter in a way that severed him from the very source of life. He could have allowed pain to define God for him. He could have mistaken suffering for proof that faithfulness had no value. But he remained in the struggle without making an idol out of the struggle. He lamented, but he did not surrender his entire being to hopelessness. He was pierced, but not emptied of reverence. He was shaken, but not uprooted. And that is the picture being set before you now. You are allowed to feel the pain. You are allowed to confess the weight. You are allowed to say that this battle is hard, but you must not build your future on what pain is saying at its loudest hour. The reason the warning sounds urgent in your spirit is because this moment is not ordinary. Some decisions close doors that can be reopened. Others shape the soul in ways that take much longer to heal. That is why you must slow down long enough to discern what is really happening. The enemy wants reaction. God wants surrender of a different kind, not surrender to despair, but surrender to wisdom. One voice tells you to escape the tension at any cost. The other tells you to remain still long enough for truth to separate itself from panic. One voice pushes. The other steadies. One voice narrows your vision until all you can see is pain. The other widens your sight until you remember purpose. So breathe here. Let your soul come back into alignment. Let the panic lose some of its control. Let the fear speak, but do not let it lead. You have survived too much already to hand over your destiny in a moment of inward fog. The God who carried you through previous nights is not confused by this one. The God who sustained Job while heaven seemed silent is not absent from your own silence. He is not threatened by your questions. He is not insulted by your tears. He is calling you to stay near, to stay honest, and to stay unbroken in the deepest place, even if the outer battle still rages. And because some battles involve not only spiritual heaviness, but also mental fatigue, scattered focus, stress, and the exhaustion that comes from carrying too much for too long. Some people find it helpful to support their daily rhythm with tools that create a calmer and clearer space for their mind. One that is often mentioned is the genius wave, also called genius song. A short audio experience built around brainwave entrainment and designed to help with focus, clarity, creativity, and stress relief in just a few minutes a day. If that kind of support feels relevant to you, you can look for the official information in the description or the pinned comment. Be careful with imitation versions and use only the official source if you decide to try it. But above all, remember this. No tool replaces discernment, faith, or the steadying hand of God in the middle of your final battle. Now the battle moves inward in a deeper way, because the hardest war is not always the one happening around you. Sometimes the fiercest conflict rises inside your own chest, where pain argues against purpose, where exhaustion argues against obedience, and where the flesh begs for relief while your calling keeps asking you to endure. This is the war within. It is the place where your emotions can become so loud that they almost sound like truth. It is the place where disappointment tries to rewrite identity. It is the place where you begin to understand that the final battle is not simply about surviving outside pressure. It is about deciding who will rule your inner world when everything in you feels divided. That is why Job remains such a powerful companion in this part of the journey. By now, his story is no longer standing beside yours from a distance. It is moving through the same spiritual terrain. Job was not only attacked in his circumstances, he was attacked in the hidden chambers of the heart. He had to sit with memories of what had been lost, with questions that had no immediate answer, and with a body that had become a daily reminder of suffering. He was a man pulled between grief and reverence, between anguish and trust, between the honest cry of a wounded human soul and the deeper knowledge that God was still God. That tension did not make him false, it made him real. You know what this feels like. One part of you wants to stay faithful, but another part is simply tired. One part of you remembers what God has spoken, but another part wonders how much longer you can hold that word without visible change. One part of you wants to rise in strength, while another part just wants the pain to stop. This is the hidden conflict that many people never talk about with enough honesty. They speak of victory as if it always arrives with confidence, as if obedience always feels noble, as if spiritual maturity removes struggle from the soul. But often the opposite is true. The deeper your calling, the more serious the testing of your inner agreement becomes. Job had to face that hidden war. He had moments when sorrow poured out of him with force. He spoke from the depth of his pain. He wrestled with the mystery of why the righteous could suffer so deeply. He did not float above the trial in detached calm. He lived inside it, and still, beneath the weight of everything he felt, there remained a line he would not cross. He would speak his grief, but he would not hand over his soul. He would question, but he would not make darkness his master. He would ache, but he would not sever the thread that tied him to God. This is what made his endurance holy. It was not that he felt no war within. It was that the war within did not own him. You are learning the same lesson now. The flesh always wants the quickest path out. It wants comfort before character, escape before transformation, relief before revelation. But your calling is asking something higher of you. It is asking you not to worship immediate relief. It is asking you not to make an agreement with despair just because despair promises rest. There is a kind of surrender that looks peaceful on the outside but is actually defeat on the inside. And there is another kind of surrender, the sacred kind, where you yield your pain to God without yielding your identity to darkness. That is the surrender you are being invited into. This inner war becomes especially intense when you can no longer rely on outward signs to carry you. In easier seasons, blessings can steady the mind. Encouragement can strengthen the heart. Visible progress can help silence doubt. But when the road grows dark and long, all that remains is the unseen choice of where your soul will bow. Will it bow to fear, to bitterness, to self-pity, to spiritual numbness, or will it bow before the God who remains worthy even in mystery? Job had to make that choice again and again, not once, but repeatedly. Every painful day became another invitation either to collapse inward or to remain turned toward the Lord through tears. That is why this verse matters so much in your present battle. In all this, Job did not sin nor charge God with wrong. Job chapter 1, verse 22. That verse does not mean Job felt nothing. It means that in the middle of everything he felt, he refused to let pain become accusation against the character of God. That is a profound victory. It is the kind of victory that happens before restoration ever appears. It is the victory of the hidden altar, where the soul stays low before God even while the heart is breaking. So when you feel the war within, do not think something has gone wrong with your faith. The struggle itself is not proof of failure. It is proof that something precious is being contested. The enemy would not labor so hard over your inner life if your inner life did not matter. The flesh would not scream so loudly for escape if your obedience were not carrying weight. This conflict is painful because purpose is involved. This tension is real because destiny is involved. What is being fought over is not just your mood, it is your alignment. And yet, even here, grace is present. Grace does not always remove the conflict at once. Sometimes it holds you steady in the middle of it. Sometimes it gives you enough strength for one more honest prayer, one more surrendered breath, one more act of trust when trust feels costly. That is how chosen ones endure. Not by pretending the war within is small, but by refusing to let that war become their ruler. So stay with God in this place. Stay near when your feelings are uneven. Stay near when your thoughts are noisy. Stay near when the flesh is begging for an easier road. Job's story shows you that the soul can be torn and still remain loyal. It shows you that faith can limp and still move forward. It shows you that the deepest victory may begin in the unseen moment when you decide that no matter how fierce the inner battle becomes, your heart will not abandon the one who called you. You have come far enough now to understand that memory can either strengthen you or betray you. In a battle like this, the mind often reaches first for what was lost, what was delayed, what was broken, what was said, what never returned, what still hurts when the room goes quiet. Pain has a way of making certain memories louder than others. It can turn wounds into mirrors and then ask you to study yourself only through damage. That is why this next movement in your journey matters so deeply. You must remember your scars, but you must not bow to your doubts. You must learn to read your history through survival, not just through suffering. This is where Job's story becomes even more intimate. He was a man surrounded by evidence of devastation. If anyone had reason to let pain define the meaning of memory, it was Job. Every part of his world had been shaken. His losses were not small. His grief was not symbolic. It was sharp, human, and immediate. When he looked around, he could see what was gone. When he looked at himself, he could feel what had changed. The temptation in such a season is to treat every scar as proof that God has failed you, or to let your doubts become narrators over every chapter of your life. But Job's endurance shows something holier. A scar is not only evidence that you were wounded, it is also evidence that the wound did not finish you. That truth matters for you now. You are carrying marks from battles that few people fully understand. Some of those marks live in your emotions. Some live in your trust. Some live in the way you hesitate before hoping again. Some live in the way you prepare yourself for disappointment even while praying for breakthrough. But the very fact that you are still here means your scars have a testimony your doubts keep trying to silence. Your doubts say you are too damaged. Your scars say you survived. Your doubts say nothing good can come from this season. Your scars say you have already walked through things that should have swallowed you whole. And yet you are still breathing, still seeking God, still reaching toward light. Job had to come to terms with that same inner reckoning. He could not return to a naive version of faith. He could not pretend he had never suffered. He could not erase the ache by pretending the fire had not touched him. But neither did he let pain become his only language. This is what chosen ones must learn. Healing does not always mean forgetting. Sometimes healing means remembering correctly. It means looking at what happened and seeing not only what was taken from you, but what was preserved in you. It means understanding that every scar has two stories attached to it. One story tells how deeply you were hurt. The other tells how deeply God sustained you in the middle of that hurt. There are people who look at scars and see weakness. Heaven often looks at scars and sees proof of endurance. Heaven sees the nights you stayed when your emotions wanted to flee. Heaven sees the prayers you whispered when language had almost left you. Heaven sees the moments you chose not to become bitter, even though bitterness would have felt easier than surrender. Heaven sees what was formed in you under pressure. And when you remember that, doubt begins to lose some of its authority. Doubt thrives where memory is distorted. Doubt grows stronger when you forget what God has already carried you through. But when you begin to remember with spiritual clarity, you realize that your life is not a record of repeated defeat. It is a record of repeated preservation. This is why you must become careful with the stories you tell yourself in lonely hours. Do not rehearse only the losses. Rehearse the rescues too. Do not revisit only what broke your heart. Revisit the ways God kept your soul from breaking entirely. Do not let the enemy edit your history until all that remains is disappointment. Job did not understand everything about his suffering, but his life still became a witness that faith can remain standing after devastation. Your life can become that witness too, not because the scars disappear, but because the scars stop serving fear and start serving truth. And there is something else about scars that matters in this hour. Scars do not bleed the way open wounds do. They remember pain, but they also announce closure. They tell you that what once overwhelmed your body is no longer ruling it in the same way. In the spirit, there are seasons where God begins to turn your bleeding places into scarred places. Tender still, yes. Sensitive still, yes. But no longer open in the same way. No longer possessing the same power to drain your life. Job's story moves through such terrain. He remains marked by what he suffered, but his story is not frozen in the moment of impact. It keeps moving. And so does yours, if these words are helping steady your heart. Receive them as more than passing comfort. Let them become part of your rhythm, quietly like this message. Share it with someone who needs strength for their own hidden battle, and subscribe so these reminders can keep meeting you on the days when faith feels thin. And if this channel has become a place that nourishes your spirit, there is also a way to support the work through the donation link in the description. Let that be simple and willing, never pressured. Just one more way light keeps reaching people who are trying not to give up. Now come back to the sacred center. Your scars are not arguments against your calling. They are part of its shaping. The enemy wants you staring at your history until you feel too fractured to continue. God invites you to look again until you see what your survival has been saying all along. You are not standing here because the battle was small. You are standing here because grace has been larger than the battle. Job knew what it was to sit in ashes, but even there his story was not over. Your own scars may remind you of what was lost, but they can also remind you that you are still here, and still here means God is not finished. So remember with courage, remember with honesty, remember with reverence. Let doubt speak if it must, but do not make it your teacher. Let your scars become witnesses. Let them testify that you have suffered, yes, but also that you have endured. Let them tell you that the same God who carried you through what almost broke you is able to carry you through this final stretch as well. And when your mind tries to collapse into fear, answer it with the evidence of survival. You are marked, but you are not abandoned. You are wounded, but you are not defeated. You are scarred, but you are still chosen, still held, and still moving toward the purpose that pain could not destroy. You have now reached the kind of moment that feels small on the outside but carries enormous weight in the spirit. The next move does not always look dramatic to human eyes. Sometimes it is a quiet decision. Sometimes it is the refusal to say yes to despair. Sometimes it is the choice to stay faithful for one more day when your emotions are begging for release. But heaven watches such moments with a seriousness that earth rarely understands. This is not because God is distant and waiting to see whether you impress him. It is because your response in the hidden place reveals what has truly been formed in you through the fire. This is where Job's story becomes even more sacred. So much of his suffering unfolded in public pain, visible loss, and spoken grief. Yet the deepest meaning of his trial was never limited to what human eyes could see. There was a heavenly dimension around his endurance from the very beginning. His life became the ground where a larger question was being answered. Would a man still honor God when comfort was stripped away? Would devotion remain when blessing was no longer visible? Would reverence survive when pain entered the house and sat beside him day after day? Job did not know all that heaven had seen when the trial began, but his response still mattered before the unseen realm. That truth should steady you now. Your life is not unfolding only in front of people. It is not measured only by what others understand, applaud, or misunderstand. There is an unseen witness over your obedience. There is holy attention over the choices you make when no one else knows the cost. Heaven watches the moments when you could become bitter and choose instead to remain soft before God. Heaven watches the moments when your mind is tired but your spirit still reaches upward. Heaven watches when you hold your peace instead of letting pain turn into poison. These are not small things. They are the marks of a soul that is being weighed in the balance and found leaning toward truth. Job had to live inside that reality without having the full explanation. He felt abandoned at times, but he was not abandoned. He felt the silence, but heaven had not turned away. He sat in anguish, but his anguish was not meaningless. His next move mattered again and again. Every response became part of the testimony forming around his life. Every day he remained before God rather than severing himself from God became another answer to the accusation that suffering would destroy his devotion. And in your own way, you are answering that same accusation now. The enemy wants your next move to come from panic. Panic makes quick agreements. Panic narrows vision. Panic convinces you that the present emotion is the whole truth. But heaven calls you into something stronger than panic. Heaven calls you into holy steadiness. It calls you to remember that one wrong agreement can deepen pain, while one surrendered act of trust can open space for grace to move again. This is why your next move carries weight. It is not just about getting through the day. It is about what your response is aligning with in the spirit. You may feel as though nobody sees how hard this is for you. You may feel invisible in your struggle, unseen in your discipline, unheard in your prayers. But Job's story tells you that hidden faith is never truly hidden. The world may misread it. Friends may fail to grasp it. Even your own heart may sometimes underestimate what God is doing in you. But heaven sees. Heaven sees the restraint that keeps you from making a permanent decision in a wounded hour. Heaven sees the humility that keeps bringing your questions to God instead of turning your questions into rebellion. Heaven sees the endurance that keeps showing up before the Lord when all the easy feelings are gone. That is why this verse matters in such a deep way here. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 3. This is not a verse of threat for the faithful. It is a verse of comfort and sobering truth. It means your pain is not unfolding in a forgotten corner. It means your obedience is not disappearing into emptiness. It means your next move, however quiet, is seen by the God who watches with justice, mercy, and perfect understanding. Job's life teaches you that heaven does not only watch outcomes. Heaven watches posture. Heaven watches whether the soul remains turned toward God in the dark. Heaven watches whether suffering makes you harder or holier. Heaven watches whether the trial produces self-worship or surrender. This is why your current moment is so important. You are being invited into a form of faith that is not built on immediate reward. You are being invited into a deeper reverence, one that says God is still worthy while the answer is still delayed. So do not despise the hidden place. Do not think your unseen choices are too small to matter. Do not think your private obedience carries no spiritual significance. Job's story proves the opposite. What happens in the hidden place can echo in eternity. What you choose in the silence can become part of a testimony that outlives the trial itself. And this is where your heart must become still enough to understand what kind of person you are becoming. Not a person who needs constant signs to stay faithful. Not a person who can only worship while life feels manageable. But a person whose soul has learned to remain under heaven's gaze without flinching away from truth. A person who knows that the next move matters because God sees, God knows, and God is not absent from this hour. So make your next move carefully. Make it prayerfully, and then make it with the awareness that heaven watches not to condemn the chosen one who is struggling, but to strengthen the chosen one who is still standing. Job stood there before he understood the full story. And now you are standing there too. Let your next move be worthy of the God who has been watching over you all along. Now you stand at one of the most dangerous edges in the whole journey. Because the trap of giving up now is not always obvious when you are tired. It rarely presents itself as destruction at first. It often comes dressed as relief. It whispers that you have done enough, endured enough, hoped enough, believed enough. It tells you that laying everything down would finally bring peace. It tries to make retreat look wise and surrender to despair look mature. But this is the deception hidden in the final stretch. What appears to promise relief may actually steal the very thing you have suffered to preserve. Giving up now does not only threaten your comfort, it threatens the meaning of everything you have endured to reach this point. This is why Job's story must remain close to you here. By the time his suffering had stretched on, he had already endured more than most people could bear. He had lost stability, peace, and the familiar shape of his life. He had sat in pain long enough for hopelessness to seem almost understandable. If there were ever a man who could have justified giving up in the eyes of others, it was Job. Yet the deeper truth is this: the longer the battle lasted, the more decisive his perseverance became. The temptation to quit did not arrive because his life had no value. It arrived because his continued faithfulness still mattered, and that is where your own situation becomes so serious. The trap of giving up now is especially dangerous because you are not at the beginning of the road. You are standing after prayers, after tears, after nights of wrestling, after seasons that have already shaped you in ways you do not fully understand yet. To abandon the process now would be to let exhaustion make a decision that wisdom would never make. It would be to let one crushing hour rewrite years of obedience. It would be to walk away just when your endurance has become most costly to darkness and most precious to heaven. The enemy knows something many weary people forget. Pain can distort timing. When you are exhausted, you start to believe that what you feel in this moment will last forever. You begin to think there is no turning, no shifting, no release, no answer coming. But that is one of the oldest lies in spiritual warfare. It uses present weight to erase future vision. It uses current anguish to make promise feel imaginary. It uses delay to convince you that destiny was never real. Job faced this same trap. If he had judged everything only by what he felt in the middle of the ashes, he could have concluded that his story was over. But the ashes were not the end. The silence was not the end. The ache was not the end. That is why giving up now would cost more than your emotions can calculate. It would cost perspective. It would cost testimony. It would cost the deep inner strengthening that has been forming while you thought nothing was happening. It would cost the authority that comes only to those who remain faithful in hidden battles. It would cost the future version of you who will one day look back and realize that this was the exact point where perseverance had to become a decision, not a feeling. There are moments when endurance no longer feels inspiring. It feels raw. It feels stripped down. It feels like obedience with no applause. But those are often the moments that shape destiny most. Job's life keeps teaching you this in a way that is both sobering and hopeful. He did not know when the turning would come. He did not receive a neat timeline while sitting in pain. He had to remain without controlling the ending. He had to trust without managing the outcome. That kind of faith is costly, but it also carries a kind of beauty that cannot be manufactured. The soul that stays with God when there is no visible reward becomes dangerous to darkness, because darkness loses one of its favorite weapons. It can no longer rely on suffering to produce separation. This is why Scripture speaks with such force into moments like yours. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. That verse does not deny your weariness. It names it. It does not pretend the road is easy. It simply warns you not to make weariness your master. There is a harvest tied to perseverance. There is a due season that does not always announce itself in advance. There is a reaping that belongs to those who keep going when quitting seems easier. So hear this with clarity. The trap is not only the act of giving up. The trap is believing that giving up would protect you. It will not. It may pause the tension for a moment, but it will wound something deeper. It will leave you with the ache of unfinished obedience. It will place silence where testimony was meant to stand. It will trade future strengthening for present escape. And you were not carried this far for that kind of ending. Stay alert in this hour. Guard your soul from conclusions born out of fatigue. Guard your mind from voices that make collapse sound noble. And if this message reaches you exactly where the battle feels hardest, write "I stay faithful" in the comments. Let it be simple. Let it be your line in the sand. Let it be your refusal to let the final trap claim what God has preserved, because you are closer than the pain wants you to believe. Job remained long enough to see that suffering did not own the final word. You must remain long enough to see it too. The trap of giving up now is real, but so is the grace that warns you away from it. So do not bow to false relief. Do not surrender at the edge of meaning. Hold your place. Hold your faith. Hold your heart before God. This is not the hour to disappear. This is the hour to endure until the trap breaks and the truth stands clear. Now you reach the place where endurance is no longer only about surviving. It becomes about identity. It becomes about whether you will rise as the one who finishes. Many people can begin with passion. Many can speak of calling when vision feels bright and strength feels fresh. But the soul that finishes is forged in a different fire. It is shaped in the hours when excitement is gone, when pain has stripped away illusion, when the road has become narrow, and when obedience must stand without the comfort of immediate reward. This is the place where your spirit is being asked a holy question. Who are you when the battle has lasted longer than you expected? Who are you when the promise has not yet appeared in full view? Who are you when finishing costs more than starting ever did? This is why the story of Job continues to move so naturally with yours. Job did not only endure loss, he endured long enough for his character to become unmistakable. He was not a man who merely survived a disaster. He became a witness to what it means to remain before God until the end of a crushing season. That is different. Survival can happen by instinct. Finishing requires consecration. Finishing requires the quiet decision to keep your soul aligned with heaven even after sorrow has tested every part of you. Job rose into that kind of identity slowly, painfully, and truthfully. He did not become a finished man by avoiding the fire. He became one by staying with God inside it. You are being called into that same kind of completion. Not a noisy version of strength that depends on constant recognition. Not a dramatic version of faith that burns bright for a moment and disappears under pressure. You are being called into the strength that remains, the strength that endures, the strength that has learned how to walk with a limp and still move toward purpose. This is deeper than emotion. It is deeper than motivation. It is the formation of a soul that has stopped negotiating with despair and has started accepting the weight of its assignment. There is a sacred shift that happens here. Up to this point, much of the battle has been about what was happening to you, what was being said against you, what was pressing on you, what was being taken from you. But now the focus begins to turn. Now the question is not only what has happened to you, but who you are becoming through it. Job came to such a place. His suffering had stripped away every easy definition. Wealth was gone. Comfort was gone. Certainty was gone. Yet when so much had fallen away, something true remained. A man who still belonged to God. A man who had been shaken but not uprooted. A man whose faith had passed through the furnace and come out carrying weight. That is what heaven is building in you. A finisher, not someone who waits for perfect conditions, not someone who only obeys while the outcome feels favorable. A finisher is someone who keeps moving under the government of God even when the soul feels tired. A finisher knows that emotions can be real without becoming rulers. A finisher knows that pain can speak without becoming the final authority. A finisher learns to live by deeper truth. This is the kind of person darkness fears because a finisher cannot be easily manipulated by delay, disappointment, or intimidation. Job became that kind of witness. He stood in the tension long enough for his life to prove that suffering could wound him without owning him. He did not emerge from the trial as the same man who entered it. He emerged deeper, quieter, clearer, more rooted. That is what the final battle is producing in you as well. Not merely relief, though relief will come. Not merely vindication. Though God is just, it is producing spiritual stature. It is producing the kind of interior strength that can carry blessing without worshiping blessing, and can carry purpose without collapsing under pressure. This is why the scripture speaks so powerfully into this moment. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. That verse carries the spirit of a finisher. It is not speaking to the shallow heart. It is speaking to the soul that understands that faithfulness is not a mood. It is a vow lived out in time. It is the daily yielding of the self to God again and again until obedience becomes the shape of your life. So rise now in your inner being. Rise, not because the battle has fully vanished, but because you understand what this hour requires. Rise because you have wept enough to know tears do not disqualify strength. Rise because you have suffered enough to know pain is not the end of the story. Rise because the God who sustained Job through mystery is sustaining you through this final stretch. Rise because finishing is already taking form in you every time you refuse to bow to hopelessness. You do not need to feel fearless to be faithful. You do not need to have every answer to keep walking. You do not need visible proof every day to remain chosen. What you need is the willingness to keep yielding your life to God one step at a time. This is how finishers are made, not in one grand moment alone, but in repeated acts of trust, in hidden obedience, in weary prayers, in costly surrender, in the refusal to become someone smaller than what God has called forth from within you. And this is the truth settling over you now. You are not just enduring a battle. You are becoming the one who finishes it. Job's story has shown you the path. Stay before God. Stay honest. Stay yielded. Stay faithful until what once looked impossible becomes the very testimony attached to your name. The final battle is not here to erase you. It is here to reveal that by the grace of God, you are still standing, still chosen, and still moving toward the completion of everything heaven wrote over your life. And now you arrive at the place where the battle turns into victory. Not because every scar has vanished in an instant, and not because every question has already been answered, but because something greater has happened within you. You did not let the darkness name you. You did not let pain become your master. You did not let the final stretch persuade you to throw away what God had been building through every hidden trial. You are still here, still standing, still breathing, still believing. And that means the fire did not consume you, it refined you. The pressure did not erase your calling, it revealed it. The long night did not prove that God had forgotten you. It proved that even in silence, His hand was steady over your life. This is how the crown begins to rest on a life, not through easy comfort, not through a path without sorrow, but through faithful endurance, through staying with God when the road narrowed, through choosing obedience when your emotions asked for escape, through carrying your soul back to truth again and again until truth became stronger than fear. Job's story has walked beside you all this way for a reason. He was not crowned because he never suffered. He was crowned because suffering did not become his God. He was not lifted because he understood everything at once. He was lifted because he remained before the Lord long enough for restoration to meet him on the other side of mystery. That same holy pattern now speaks over you. The final victory is not only that you will see change around you. It is that you have become someone different within it. You have become steadier. You have become deeper. You have become less impressed by temporary things and more rooted in eternal ones. You have learned how to keep going without applause. You have learned how to pray through heaviness. You have learned how to endure without losing the tenderness of your heart. That matters. It matters because heaven is not merely preparing gifts for you. Heaven is preparing you for what comes next. And what comes next requires the strength that only this battle could shape. There is a quiet glory in a person who has suffered and still carries light. There is a holy beauty in a soul that has been stretched and yet remains gentle before God. There is authority in the life of someone who has walked through the valley without handing their identity over to the valley. That is who you are becoming. Not a victim of your worst season. Not a prisoner of your deepest pain. But a witness. a living testimony that the Lord can keep a person through fire, through loss, through silence, through temptation, and bring them out with clearer eyes and a stronger spirit. So let this moment become sacred in you. Let this be the place where you stop calling yourself broken in the final sense and begin to understand that you are being rebuilt under the hands of God. Let this be the place where you stop measuring your life only by what hurt and begin measuring it by what survived. Let this be the place where you stop seeing endurance as merely survival and begin seeing it as your preparation for glory, because that is what victory looks like before the full harvest appears. It looks like a chosen one who refuses to bow. And right here, let your heart become prayer. Father, in this closing moment, I place this weary soul before you. You see every hidden wound, every silent tear, every night they fought battles nobody else understood. You know how close they came to giving up. You know how heavy this journey is felt. But you also know the calling over their life. You know the purpose that pain could not cancel. So strengthen them now. Breathe peace into their mind. Pour fresh courage into their spirit. Break every lie that says this battle is the end. Silence every voice that tells them to surrender to despair. Let your presence settle over them like calm after a storm. Heal what has been bruised. Restore what has been drained. Awaken what has fallen asleep under the weight of disappointment. And let them leave this moment knowing that they are still chosen, still held, still covered, and still moving toward the future you have prepared. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Hold that prayer close. Let it stay with you after these words end. Because the final victory does not begin when everyone else sees it. It begins when your spirit agrees with God again. It begins when you stop negotiating with defeat. It begins when you say, even now, I belong to the Lord and I will finish what He placed in me to finish. That is how the crown is worn, not with pride, but with surrendered endurance. Not with self-glory, but with gratitude. Not with noise, but with deep, unshakable knowing. And if this message has walked with you through a hard place, receive this final invitation gently. Like this message so it can reach more hearts that are fighting their own last battle. Share it with someone who needs strength tonight. Subscribe if you want to keep receiving these reminders when the road feels heavy. And if you feel led to help support this work, there is a way to donate in the description. Let it be simple, willing, and from the heart. You are not leaving this battle empty-handed. You are leaving marked by endurance, marked by mercy, marked by the faithfulness of God. The darkness fought hard because your finishing mattered, but it did not win. It did not get the final word. The Lord kept you, the Lord formed you, and the Lord will complete what He began in you. So lift your head, breathe deeply, step forward. The battle was real, but so is the victory. And you, chosen one, are rising from this final stretch crowned with the kind of strength that only God could build.